Max Trinity's Metaphysics for Suicide Prevention, Part 9, The Surfer Task, and the Epilogue. The Surfer Task. The task of the surfer is to bring the warrior to rest, to carry the soldier home, and to quote Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce, to fight no more, forever. The surfer carries no weapon nor shield. The surfer comes naked with only their experience in all the other tasks, and surfs the great waves of life with skill and delight. The surfer is the adult human being that the adolescents had aimed for when they jumped into the great gulf. The surfer does not kill off the warrior, only retires the fighter to veteran status. And the veteran melds into the surfer as a shimmering star of the soul's experience of the quest. From the surfer stage of development, anything is truly possible, and every act and experience is intentional and desired. To quote Jane Roberts, "You are in physical existence to learn and understand that your energy, translated into feelings, thoughts, and emotions, causes all experience. There are no exceptions." Attention is soul currency. Given that we're coming into deeper understanding that our focus of attention is our focus of personal power, then, we can now demonstrate firsthand how this meta view is an actual paradigm. Actual paradigms are meta frameworks that affect the way we perceive and approach our life, both individually and as collectives. One area we can use as an example is the criteria we use for forming our priorities. We as human beings have been in a survival paradigm for thousands of years now, and this paradigm has set the highest priority, which has plainly been to survive. All of our priorities have been centered on obtaining and sustaining the means to survive. Our priorities are mostly focused on physical survival as the core of our physical lives. It makes sense, totally. However, we're born into cultures that have pre-packaged systems in place for meeting these survival needs. We're born into these cultural designs and take it for granted that they are the only viable and legitimate ways of surviving. These are sub-paradigms because cultures are subgroups of people and have different systems for physical survival. A sub-paradigm that has had far-reaching effects on human beings is the notion of the survival of the fittest. This perception is a widespread sub-paradigm and has been embedded in many cultures. Many decisions have been made and priorities set according to this rampant notion, even though there's little evidence for it. There's ample evidence that some of the least physically, morally, and creatively inclined folk in the earth realm are surviving far better than their more fit, more creative, and further developed cohorts. The point is this: if whole social structures are designed based upon group-held priorities, and if these priorities are dictated by sub-paradigms such as culture and belief systems, then we can see how change in sub-paradigms causes local changes, and a true shift in full paradigm will result in global changes. We're in the transition phase now between a survival paradigm and one in which thriving becomes the global perspective. This is good to know, especially if we can keep in mind that transition periods tend to be rough. We see this in the very challenging adolescent period of human life. The lover-warrior phase of life is wrought with radical change. We're given a clear model of paradigm shift in the transition from the childhood to the adolescent phase of life. Each falling veil is a shedding of an old paradigm that has fulfilled its purposes. It's as natural as the cracking of an egg at the emergence of a newborn creature. In the case of we human types, each shell we crack through adds another layer of experience. We can still see and feel the life orientation we held as children, but we cannot deny that we are completely changed in how we view life as an awakening adolescent. As we move from our adolescent phase into our newborn adult phase, we will witness again our natural transition through radical reorientation. Only now, we enter that sea change with eyes wide open, with skills tempered in the hellfire that has been our proving ground, with hearts purified through conscious experiences of witnessing and choosing, and with a divine knowledge of our own divine nature. The conscious reunion of our personal focus with our soul is so epic. It evokes a power and shift in direct experience that will undeniably be our greatest shared venture yet as human beings. This is us, waking up together. In the new framework of personal focus equals personal power, we'll create a completely new criteria for forming priorities both personally and collectively. In the new paradigm of thriving through focus, we find that instead of earning a living being the highest priority, creating and fleshing out a great life story becomes the new driving priority. Now that we know that our personal attention forms context and qualities and the direct experience of both, it starts to become very important to us to direct our attention intentionally. If we're aiding in the fleshing out of benevolence and goodness just by noticing them and giving them attention, then we easily choose that orientation. We also see what we won't add our energy to and give little to no attention to the context and qualities we aren't interested in expanding. We're seeing now that our focus is a facilitator for attention, and attention is the fuel of creation. This is how attention will begin to be recognized as a finer and more subtle form of currency and energy exchange. It doesn't require us to be transhumanized or physically modified, or any effort on our part other than to notice that this is the direction of our natural adult development. What we give attention to grows and fleshes out into real-time experiences. This isn't even news. We've recognized this for centuries, at the very least. We've been at this law of attraction gig for thousands of years now, really. So, we're further along the path than we realize, as is many times the case. It's a form of irony that is very pleasant indeed. Just when you think you can't go further, or even see further, chances are you're pretty much there. It's funny like that. That's why so often breakdown equals breakthrough. At a certain degree of saturation, it'll become undeniable that we're creating our shared reality by focusing our personal attention as individuals through the shared paradigms that form our worldviews. There will be global signs of this shift. There will be signposts in our personal life as well. As we transition from lover-warrior to lover-veteran, we'll find that we lose all interest in the hyper-dramatic nature of adolescence. We also naturally lose our need to be needed or accepted or even understood. And our experiences of only focusing on what we want to integrate with and contribute to become noticeably clear. Ah, yes, clarity, the nectar that heals the wounds of the warrior and transports the lover heart to the healing shores of the veteran's sanctuary. As the veils thin, the clouds of confusion begin to break up and reveal the vaster views of our broader natures. As we reorient to the greater understandings that are born directly from our experiences, we begin to live in the ever-increasing light of clarity. Clarity is the life-giving water that quenches our thirst for knowing, cleanses our inner eye, and heals our wounded hearts. Confusion, especially confusion about the meaning of our own existence, is incredibly damaging and painful. Clarity is the only substance that can bring relief in the wake of mass confusion, and its great healing properties are a balm to the soul, mind, and body. With clarity comes understanding, and with understanding comes increased ability to intentionally direct our focus and create the exact experiences we most desire. Seeing the patterns. There's a pattern of development in our transition from the childhood phase to the adolescent phase that demonstrates how to see where we are in our transition from adolescent to adult. First, there's radical disillusionment in the movement from duality to multidimensional views. Next, there is the awkward stage of adjusting to the new orientation and learning the new skills involved in the first 6 cardinal tasks. Once we are fully on our lover-warrior path, we find an inner sense of vitality emerging, a sense of a kind of indestructibility, like we're ready to conquer any foe. We are ready to take on this new world we're discovering. We're charged up by the knowledge that we have a profound purpose in life itself. We feel vital to the ongoing ventures of unfolding life, and feeling vital to all that is fuels our own personal sense of vitality. Remember, vitality is the sense of having access to all the energy needed to accomplish whatever your creative heart chooses. Never-ending, free-flowing, unimpeded energy that's always at hand. Yeah, vitality is good stuff. If we use the above described pattern, we can start to see how the veteran status bridges our full coming of age and characterizes our transition phase into full adulthood. As I've been stating, this material is a map. At this point, we can begin to use this map to identify what stage of development we're in personally. We can begin to locate ourselves on the map. Just as we experienced a grand disillusionment at the onset of adolescence, we will also go through a grand disillusionment at the onset of our veteran status. That's part of the action of clarity. It wipes away delusion, illusions, and lies. The warrior phase does not come to a smooth ending. The adolescent does not surf triumphantly in from the great gulf to cheering crowds, and there are no skillful landings. Nope. In fact, there's a deep sense of loss that precedes your growing awareness that you are no longer in the battle. You have no fight left in you, and in deep fact, you have arrived to what seems to be a sort of rehab/veterans hospital type of situation, and you're among other traumatized vets. This is a phase of clearing and reflecting and healing. We have fought the 1,000 wars and have the scars and wounds to prove it. We've run the many gauntlets and fulfilled the once foreboding tasks. We've won our own liberty, and along the way made too many discoveries to number. No one on earth at this time is a newbie, okay? No one. We here are all many-lifers, and we're coming to the end of all battles and the end of all inner conflicts together. If you look around, it's not hard to see that we humans as a group have entered the veteran status. Earth has been our battleground, exteriorizing her own conflicts in the process. Now we are coming into the age of mass rehab and recovery, of healing and redemption. Seriously, look around. Are we not all wounded and battle-weary? Are we not in some grand expression of a mental hospital? Is there one human left who isn't traumatized and in need of soul healing? Please, point to this person if you can. Chances are great that, even if you think you found such an individual, upon closer examination you'll see that they're just really good at hiding their wounds. Conspiracy and veteran disillusionment. As warrior lovers, we've been in the trenches, consumed in our learning and experiencing. The adolescent phase has so much forward thrust that even when we know about conscious reflection, there's almost no space or time available to us to engage in this life-giving task. We immerse ourselves into our roles and into the cultural ventures of survival, idealism, skill building, battle waging, belief testing, endurance of extremes, and collecting of direct, first-hand experiences of sovereign life. In this relentless motion, we collect many wounds, and our hearts sustain heavy damage. Part of the damage we sustain is in the first stage of our veteran disillusionment. We're not children anymore. We haven't been so for a very long time now. We've been deep in the space-time jungles and alone in the deserts of isolation. We've drowned in that great gulf many, many times, only to be revived and re-enter the fray. We've loved and lost in love in every conceivable way. We've believed in everything. And even when everything got stripped away, our remaining belief has been this, that love is real and survives every battle, every incarnation, every evil, every test, every loss, and every death. No, we are not beginners here. It will take a grand and powerful disillusionment to clarify our experienced views. This grander disillusionment comes in the form of discovering the falseness of the paradigms we've been living under. This initial stage usually comes through the experience of discovering that most of what we've been taught, most of what we've practiced as human societies, has all been based on lies. When we begin to see the vast conspiracies that account for the social structuring of human life here on Earth, that is a milestone of our development into adults. All illusions must fade when they are directly encountered, and the fading of our mass shared delusions about hierarchies and systems of engineered society is happening right now. This is not a painless fading, for it feels as if everything we once believed, every belief we held so dear, is now diffusing like a vapor and leaving us completely stripped, naked, and raw. It hurts. Our bodies wash up on the shores of sanctuary, and we are again in a state of profound disillusionment and dazed confusion. We don't even realize that we are beached or that we now have sanctuary. Like any veteran of great wars and bloody conflicts, like any lover who has lost all they held dear, we're traumatized and haunted. Our first mumblings upon our worldview dissolving are fraught with anxiety because the ground has literally slipped out from underneath us. We have no bearings, and we're still too close to the screams and explosions of our own shattered self to see where we are. Yeah, traumatized. Crashing on the shores of sanctuary. I know this much to be true because I am a veteran. I can track my adult disillusionment and even recall when I first figured out that I had landed in the cosmic rehab hospital we presently call Earth. What was really funny was that I was one of those patients who thought I was a doctor. In my capacity to bring some clarity to the situation, I mistook the resulting relief in others as my healing handiwork. No, no, it was part of my remaining delusion. Clarity brings relief, and I had just enough clarity to share and trigger the relief, but not enough clarity to realize that the relief wasn't coming from me. Clarity was coming through me as a natural part of my own healing, and others were benefiting from it, but I was in no way the healer I thought I was. I remember when I figured out that I was just another patient in the loony bin. While operating under the delusion that I was some kind of healer/teacher, I also thought there were still battles raging, and frequently could be seen, charging through the halls of the hospital, pretend sword in hand, hospital gown flapping, fighting invisible foes. Yeah, I was that gal. The realization that I was an inpatient was the beginning of my calm, the beginning of my healing, and the beginning of the ending of pain and disillusionment for me. The day of that realization, that very moment, I experienced a vision of my warrior self stepping out of my body and standing before my spirit eyes in all her regalia. Her beauty, honor, integrity, and strength were so breathtaking that I was astounded, amazed, and deeply and strangely reassured. There was no doubt that this great being in her grand flowing gown of orange and gold, with her Medusa shield and Arthurian sword of destiny, was in fact me. I have never been so taken aback and drawn in at the same time. Her ferociousness was a comfort to me. Her capacity to destroy amazed me, and her fearless love captured my wounded heart and began the clearing and healing of my awestruck eyes. For me, the conspiracy-triggered disillusionment went full force in 2005, and my warrior self stepped aside in 2006. There were inklings of the conspiracies before that, hints throughout my life at the coming divestment of solid beliefs that I can only see in retrospect. This period lasted until 2015, when I died my last deaths and loved my last loves in the adolescent phase. Since then, I've found myself on the beach, in a calm, cross-legged reverie of my own many lives. I've come to many realizations that I am in my healing veteran phase, that my soul has found me and has been slowly reintroducing me to my greater self. The calm begets more clarity, and the clarity begets more calm in an upward spiraling pillar that is my now constant companion. I'm speaking of profound calm, the heart quality of peace. In the late 1990s, a near-distant voice had entered my mind saying only 2 words: remain calm. The voice was so solid, so grounded, that it brought an instant injection of calm with it. Part of me, though, was like, oh shit, why do I need to be calm? Is a bunch of even scarier shit getting ready to happen? Yep, a small part of me was panicked. But a strange other part was emerging. I could sense a steeliness, a bold confidence whispering at the edges of my mind. It all felt so unreal, and yet more real than anything I'd previously experienced. It was doubt-free, and indeed a source of calm over the coming decades. It did get scarier. It got terrifying at points, and many a times I threw myself into the leap of faith, for I had little to no knowledge of what lay ahead of me. I'm recounting my experience to give an example of what this progression looks like, and of the overlapping of phases and the time involved in my particular story. As I write here at the beginning of the Gregorian year of 2017, I'm still veteran status, but my surfing lessons and practice are now becoming a part of my daily mortal life. We can see from here that the great transitions of our soul lives begin with a stripping away of old views, with disillusionment and radical shifting of orientation. The disillusionment is accompanied by death and endings, and is overlapped with a phasing in of the new orientation, the new paradigm. In the shift to the adolescent phase, we are launched into the cardinal tasks in the new body like we were shot out of a cannon. It's a cliff dive into the great gulf of adolescence. At the end of the adolescent phase, we make acquaintance with our veteran self and transition through healing rather than fighting, through calm rather than courage, and with increasing clarity rather than gathering storms of violent confusion. Yeah, it's a different gig, but in the big picture, it's another transition from one phase of spiritual development to another. The healing of the warrior wounds by the veteran heart is the first task of the surfer. Apocalypse is the clarion call that turns your vision sure to the fact that you are now on the shores of sanctuary, on mystery's own private beach, in the middle ending beginnings of your surfer life. Micro-macro rehab and the apocalypse. Apocalypse, translated from its Greek origins, means uncovering or unveiling. In the metaphysical perspective, it means, in part, the transitions between phases of development that are represented by the veils coming down. It also denotes the uncovering of secret, hidden, or new knowledge and the new perspectives that spring off in the uncovering. The as above, so below pattern demonstrates that there are personal, local, and global forms of apocalypses. Just as we can have our own epiphanies within the context of our personal life story, there are shared apocalypses that can range from small groups of people like families to whole regions, and on global scales as well. Another pattern revealed in this micro-macro relationship is fractal patterning embedded in storylines and context. We're seeing here that apocalypses are events, actions, and shifts in particular. These events and shifts can apply to any story, be it personal, communal, global, or universal. This capacity to apply to any magnitude is what's known as a scalar quality, and is one of the primary characteristics of fractals. Fractals are self-perpetuating, elegant design patterns that can describe any possible physical form and can be stated in mathematical phrasings called iterations. Iterations can also describe standing waveforms and interference patterns. It's now being uncovered that there are non-physical forms consisting of standing waves that interact in what's called interference patterns. Interference patterns are the primary design element of all holograms and holography. The non-physical forms are metaphysical aspects of life. An example, sensing, feeling, thinking, observing, communicating, enjoying, revealing, surprising, and on and on. You get the picture. Here's the thing. These non-things have a frequency presence, an essence, that can be described by interference patterns. To generate a hologram in physical life, a laser is split. One beam bounces off a mirror, then goes through a diffusing lens that spreads out the wave pattern and aims it at the film. The second beam goes through a diffusing lens and then bounces off a chosen object, so the object waves now aim at the film too. The waveforms of the two beams then intersect, as they also intersect the film and form an interference pattern on the film itself. If you look at the film, all you'll see is nondescript lines, dots, and dashes, and curving or bumpy patterns that resemble a fingerprint. The beam that bounces off the object is called the object beam. The other beam is called the reference beam. When the reference beam is shined straight through the film, what results is a visual appearance of a physical form in a quasi-physical state. These holograms have a very solid appearance, but they are not solid. Wink, wink. In the non-physical case, it's our attention that's the laser, and our personal focus is our personal reference beam. Our constant triangulated attention as body, mind, soul is the splitting and re-intersecting of the laser that reveals the non-physical forms through all of our physical and non-physical senses. What I'm saying here is this: there are more than just visual holograms. All of our senses are frequency-based, so our experience of sound is the result of our focus laser intersecting with sound waves. Our experience of smell is our focus laser intersecting with smell frequencies, forms of scent waves. Our sense of taste is our focus laser intersecting with flavor waveforms. Our sense of touch is our focus laser intersecting with waveforms of pressure, texture, and electrostatic sensation. We also experience non-physical sensations through this holographic model. For example, when we focus on discovery, we instantly feel a combo platter of senses. We feel a mix of curiosity, excited observation, exposing and uncovering, directed seeking and finding, and anticipation of a rendezvous with mystery. These qualities combine to form the interference pattern of discovery, and our focus of attention manifests our direct experience with this wonderful sensation. These sensations are the free-ranging metaphysical signals of the design state of everything. The design state is like a sea of all possible designs, all possible interference patterns, all carrying the codes for their own individual expression. They are the interference patterns for our physical and non-physical holographic experiences. Anything that can be expressed has its own interference code. That unique code interacts with other codes through mutual attention. The overlap of attention creates a third unique interference pattern. That third pattern is the shared experience of the ones overlapping. It's also called boundaries. That's the boundary. When you take all the overlapping patterns together at once, then you have the design expression of both mystery and what we call universe. Holographic film has the magical qualities of all-inclusiveness. You can cut holographic film into pieces, and every piece will still produce the entire hologram. That's how every pattern in the universe contains the pattern for the whole universe. The interference patterns demonstrate the fractal quality of patterns that naturally repeat on ever-decreasing and increasing scales. So the large contains the small, and the small contains the large at the same time. Notice the paradoxical nature of holograms. Notice how these metaphysical concepts relate through all-inclusiveness. All-inclusiveness is also the primary dynamic of mystery. All I includes I'veness, all the clues to all the I's that can ever be. That's why mystery shimmers. All those energetic patterns and codes swirling, blinking, splashing, merging and diverging, coalescing and crashing. And the pattern of our own personality, our individual self and our expanded soul self exist in that sea too, and we're constantly mixing it up. We're constantly and seamlessly generating our own personalized interference codes into this incredibly intense and experiential, physically manifested life. We're focusing, and our focus is generating an endless streaming holographic river within the sea of possibility. We are these rivers of attention, having our own holographic experience of the physical realms. It's not hard to see why many investigative minds have been postulating that indeed our whole physical life, including the presence of the earth itself, is holographic. By virtue of the soul of Gaia focusing her planetary scale of attention to generate the physical water planet we call Earth, we have a direct demonstration of planetary personal entityhood. In the holographic view, anything that presents gives evidence of its own individualized focus of attention. This means water, air, earth, fire, electricity, plasma, and magnetism all have a distinct, individual, and personal focus of attention. Since everything and non-thing has an individual energy pattern and a personal focus, it's easy to see how everything is interacting with everything else and how everything is alive. We're directing our attention, our soul frequency pattern, to the frequency pattern, the attention of Earth, and these two individual patterns intersect to form the shared experiences we're having with Earth. Earth is indeed focusing attention on every individual that she is home to. Earth's experience of life is expanded by the experience of every living element that is also focusing on her. You can take this form of soul communication up and down the scale. You can see the primary communication and energy pattern exchange taking place in the exchange of attention. We can see through this view that the planets are attending to each other and to their shared central star we call the sun. There are endless and massive forms of attention being given and received along electromagnetic pathways and more subtle pathways of observation and association. Here we have our platform of reasoning to show us, unquestionably, that as we shift our focus around, whole planetary systems shift around, and we ping our energy patterns back and forth between stars and take direct part in the ever-morphing galactic play of life. This interplay of galactic proportions is part of the new emerging paradigm of the surfer. Our capacity for interacting on ever-increasing levels has been added to with every life we've lived in order to fulfill the cardinal tasks. Our gradual transformation from simple dualistic perceptions to the chaos of adolescent multi-perception demonstrates for us that the direction of our development is toward increasing complexity combined with increasing clarity. We're seeing now that this development process applies to planets as well. In fact, everything from the most micro nanoparticle to the most expansive individual galaxy and the farthest edges of macro existence shares this quality of progression through expansion and transformation. In other words, everything in life is constantly developing and transforming through cycles of experiencing. Everything goes through similar phases of development. By the time I had the capacity to suggest what stage of psychological development the Earth is in, it was very obvious to me that Earth and all her inhabitants are coming to the end of the adolescent phase of life, to the end of the warrior path, and the beginning of the veteran path. In fact, this point of view comes from entering the veteran phase, When you have a first-hand point of view of Earth being like a giant high school, complete with cliques, gangs, geeks, bullies, royalty, and outcasts who are all trying on identities and are in the act of figuring out who they are, well then, that's part of your veteran perspective opening up. As the veteran awakens and enters the initial healing phase of recovery, the other vets become apparent as well. You hear the others declaring that they are sick of the drama. They make statements about being over it, done with it, and weeding it out of their lives. You'll hear yourself saying it too, a lot. It's a sign between emerging vets. One of the most prominent signs I see of our joint veteran status is in our collective tiredness. Nowadays, even young people express how tired they are, and we're all operating in a state of semi-exhaustion. We humans are truly battle-weary. And how stunning it is when you realize that Gaia, Earth herself, is among the veterans, and how closely tied our healing is to hers. Our dawning clarity is synchronized to her dawning clarity, and her clarifying and calming is shared amongst the other planets, and is most assuredly magnified by the sun. Our sun is in direct contact with other stars, and every ripple of healing is pinging all around us down to the nano level and beyond. When your healing begins, when you find yourself on the shores of sanctuary, you can know, without a shadow of a doubt, that everything, absolutely every aspect of existence you can imagine, is on the healing path as well. This magnificent energy fuels the grand upward spiral of our emerging shared adventures. The sights, sensations, qualities, and capacities of the upward spiral will be like nothing we've experienced yet. I have no words to prepare myself for those new experiences that sparkle at the edges of my mind, but now I have a deeper understanding of what my soul was telling me all those years ago when it said so firmly, "Remain calm." That calm is now an embedded quality of the configuration of me. Whatever my eyes behold will be viewed with the powerful perspective of calm. With calm, my veteran self can begin to recover all the scattered parts that my lover heart kept track of in the war times. With every remembering of all the stories of me, more clarity will come, and with more clarity, more calm. In a natural positive feedback loop, both clarity and calm will increase until they are the prevailing essence of our existence. In that state, there's no heartbreak that can't be healed, no fence that can't be mended, no crime that can't be forgiven, no anxiety that can't be eased, and no loss that cannot be redeemed. This much I know for sure. Unwinding and acclimating. Another sign that you're coming into your veteran state is an extreme increase in sensitivity. We're talking all around sensitivity, but there's no doubt that our emotional sensitivity is to the point of severity and rawness. In our first awakenings to our veteran self, we experience a massive infusion of increased sensitivity. This new sensitivity is part of our expanded capacity to reach, feel, and create with. Our first exposure to it, however, is painful. Some of the ways this presents in our current life circumstances comes through as introversion, hermitude, staying within comfort zones, keeping your intimate circles small and kind of exclusive. You may even engage in a bit of temporary narcissism as a mode of self-preservation and an attempt to self-protect. The seeking of solitude is imperative to healing through reflection. The sense of introversion is a natural response to having extremely sensitive feelings. This aids in keeping much of yourself to yourself in a natural time of more conscious reunion with your soul. And the small, intimate circles you're finding yourself in are your tightest soul groups. There are new emerging phenomena that require you to use your newfound expansion of sensing. The subtle energies are always present, but they cannot be sensed when we're deep in program existence or in the deprogramming phases of healing. Anytime we're in a state of overwhelmment, we are cut off from our deepest sensing and knowing. Ironically, in the immediate aftermath of shock, just beyond the moment of feeling stunned, lies a great openness that gives you direct access to these subtle energies and related phenomena. By remaining calm as possible during the shimmering off of stunning shock, you can give yourself doses of the subtle energies, and you can actually see yourself acclimating to the intense sensitivity more and more. This elevated sensitivity leaves you so vulnerable that when you do engage in life and with other people, you have a preset disposition that matches you up with others who are in the same phase of transition. It's like circles of hermits who only visit other hermits in their hermit caves. It's an obvious emerging dynamic, and it actually has a very humorous quality. Yep, lots of humor in the soul groups, and humor is indeed a great healer. We're also having spontaneous group therapy with our soulmates, and we can see them going through their own process right beside us. There's also activity beyond the veils because veterans are living in both the old and the new worlds with greater perception and expanded conscious understanding. It's a time of conscious multidimension access, and it's a lot like learning how to drive. Your vehicle is your newly realized expanded consciousness, and you drive by directing your multi-focus attention and fully receiving all the spontaneous phenomena that spring forth at your feet. It's like seeing from a center in all directions at once, the unfolding of your thoughts, ideas, and imaging. Though I can speak of this activity, I can't even begin to tell you about the unique phenomena and new experiences that show themselves so suddenly. We don't have the full language for it yet, but I know where the roots of that language lie. I know how to begin to speak, read, and write it. That will come later. For now, as vets, it's important to ease into our new sensitivity, to remember our other selves and their experiences, to heal and to come to clarity about where we are now and what we're up to. Just like in our earth realm rehabs, there's a pattern to real recovery. First, there's withdrawal and detox. The veteran's raw sensitivity feels painful like withdrawal, even though it's really a building of tolerance to new degrees of light. The detox for spiritual vets occurs in personal reflection, and the reflections triggered by group therapy and group reflection with your soulmates. We're detoxing from centuries of ignorance and denial of our own powerful divine natures. Overlapping the detox are visions, epiphanies, realizations, and elevated spans that are often called moments of clarity, of course. In Spirit Hospital, they are most definitely moments of clarity, like living winged beings that gather at the edges of your consciousness, awaiting your permission to show themselves. There are moments of clarity your soul has been keeping for you for exactly this point in your personal story. In fact, you have a virtual library of these living meanings. They float into your mind's eye, and then, just like a download, you get the whole picture at once. The next step in recovery is skill building. With newfound understanding and expanded senses, we enter a state of resilience, and we start to go on day trips from the rehab to try out our new skills. On our outings, we start to re-engage with the bigger picture of life and our own story. It's during this phase that we resolve any crisis of meaning we may have acquired, meanings about our sense of value and valuing, meanings about our nature and capacities, and meanings surrounding our sense of purpose and what life is all about. As we try out our new meanings and allow ourselves and life to be meaningful, the old views untwist in space and dissolve before our eyes. The untwisting is clarity acting on confusion. There's a definite unwinding that happens during clarification that is a milestone in your healing journey. The unwinding reveals original designs, source energy, and genuine expression. All these things are invisible in the warpage of confusion, in the confusion of warpage. To find our own strength and to know ourselves firsthand, to discover life for our own selves, we have to get as far away from Source as possible. We never break connection with Source, but when we enter our personality's adolescent stage, we enter the great gulf. We venture as far as we ever will from our originating source. Originating source is the birthing ground of our soul and the home to our original design, the design of our soul's frequency configuration. As we distance ourselves from originating source, warpage begins to occur, and we get more and more out of sync with our originating frequency. In the warped state, we act against our own obscure design and create friction in the process. We push more to try to force the design to match our now warped views, and in so doing, we increase the friction. With friction comes inflammation, heat, and explosion. The inflammation, heat, and explosive nature of our use of force is what pushes at the very edges of our known existence. This pushing, which can only be accomplished with free will, is what puts us at the cutting edge of reality. It's what makes us trailblazers of experiential realms and sets up the extreme context needed to accomplish our cardinal tasks. If you have any doubt that we're living our extreme edge stories at this time, you might want to take a look at where Gaia is located in our galaxy home. We're way the hell out here on the outermost part of one of the spokes in the great wheel of the Milky Way. As above, so below. And I can't fathom how anyone can observe the upside-down, warped context and meanings we've been living out here in the edge realms and deny our location. The state of humanity, the degrees and varieties of suffering, impoverishment, and disempowerment are mind-boggling. We've been as deep into the experience of self-ignorance, self-degradation, and self-diminishment as we can get. We've also had loads of experience with the great emptiness that lies at the edge of the known, and we're well acquainted with the blank canvas and what it offers. You can witness for yourself that we reach the end of what we can do with ignorance and warpage because we see the repetition of old meanings has worn itself out. When everything around you is looking like a reboot, that's you seeing the loop of ending cycles and phases. Seeing the loop is another signpost of your veteran perspectives. When the whole realm begins to look like a reboot to humans as a group, that's a signpost that all humans and the earth herself are entering the veteran stage. Look around, look around, look around. You don't need me to point out these signs. Your eyes just open to them when you've expanded to that degree of seeing. Your seeing exposes the warpage. The warpage unwinds and dissolves in your seeing of it. Then boom, you see with clarity like never before, and the originating designs of life are exposed to you, and you're exposed to them in the same instant. In this exposure, you see with your experienced eyes your own original design, your own genuine self. You see clearly, with new eyes, your own divine soul. All along, our soul has been calling us home from our warrior path. Our soul has been shining like a lighthouse beacon, and all along we've known we'd be going home. In our veteran stage, we join our warrior light to that of our beckoning soul, and on that light bridge appears the first fluttering etchings of our surfer face and form, the emerging of our liquid crystal light bodies. I can only imagine the blurriest vision of it, but I can sense it very clearly. I can sense immense power, divine laughter, bold beauty, and the most tender love you can imagine. I can sense a knowing beyond knowing, an awestruck sense of self-recognition, and a rush of comprehension. No description can match the first-hand experience of seeing your surfer self and knowing it's you. Light and the beach. The metaphysical meaning for light is the exposed, exposing, exposer. Light exposes. As light exposes what it shines on, light also exposes that it's in the act of exposing. There is exposing taking place in the light. If there's exposing, there must be an exposer, and the exposer is the light. See, this is why the more we are exposed and the more we expose, the more enlightened we become. We'll always be enlightening. We'll always be exposing, shedding light on existence, on ourselves, and all the connecting relationships, patterns, and expressions, possibilities, and whatever else we can imagine. Here we are, fellow edge-dwellers, together at the very edge of the known. And what lies next to the edge of the known, my friends? Why, it's mystery, of course. At present, many are calling it chaos. But veterans know what chaos is. Chaos is the overlapping of the edge of existence with mystery when seen from a perspective of fear. Mass chaos signals mass arrival at the edge. Hence, we're living in the age of mass arrival to the shores of mystery, to the sanctuary of the veteran lover, and the new playground where our surfing practice will unfold. The return to mystery with our warrior experiences fulfilled is what we call awakening. Our lover aspect has loved our warrior self this whole time, but only now, in the expanded light of the battle's end, in the clearing of confusion's pain, can we actually feel our full lover nature. Only now can we fully appreciate and receive the divine love of our own self. Funny that we actually have to acclimate to love's presence and full frequency, but it's understandable. We've been living in the warped orientation for many millennia, we and our Earth Mother. We acclimated to the warpage as best we could, till it just felt normal. We normalized to the warpage of our obscured and twisted views. And though we have an advantageous view on the journey back, we still have to untangle, untwist, unwind, cleanse, and clear. It makes absolute sense that there is a veteran stage to transition us from our warrior experiences to our surfer ways. It makes sense that in order to untangle, untwist, unwind, cleanse, and clear, we need a recovery setting. We need room to reflect, free attention to explore all the space we've created, and a context to feel grounded enough that we can fully relax and stretch out into our newly formed horizons. If you know you're here in Veteran Sanctuary, if you know you've reached your own veteran status and that you will fight no more forever, then I welcome you. Welcome to your soul sanctuary. Welcome to the beginning of your recovery, the healing of your most ancient wounds, and the fuller reunion with your soul. Welcome, my fellow vets. I'll see you on the beach. Epilogue. The Surfer, the Magical Creature, and Tonio. It's turning out that the surfer is writing itself into a whole other book. That's fine. There is ample material here to work with in order to generate a super stable outlook and a flexible enough approach to life that prevents the stuckness of chronic depression and suicidal ideation. The maps laid out here really represent the middle or transition phase of the human psyche from childhood to adulthood. In that sense, there are additional chapters to be added, but they will have to come at a later time. In this book, you've been introduced to the surfer in many chapters and in many ways, but the surfer stage is one that I am only just on the threshold of as I heal my own PTSD from my personal warrior journey. There is also the phase of development prior to that of the lover-warrior adolescent stage of life. I have affectionately named the phase of human childhood as the magical creature phase. The human child experience is highly characterized by direct connection with imagination, with wonder, discovery, and sheer creativity. As children, our natural propensity is to play, to enact, and to interact all that is flowing freely to us from mystery. In our beginnings, we are not expected to have it all figured out, so we are completely free to see the amazing and unexplainable aspects of life. We are vibrant in our exploration, and meanings, along with their varied expressions of feelings and experiences, are our playthings. We are pre-sexual, not even aware of our gender or any gender in the beginning, and we are not yet subject to the powerful drives of sexuality or sexual expression. This also contributes to our mental and spiritual liberty. In the warpage of our adolescent phase as the human we, children have been sexualized. The child's ability to play act, combined with the exploitation of vulnerability and innocence, is one of the most horrifying aspects of our sojourn through the Great Gulf. It represents the most insidious form of warped social phenomena and has wreaked havoc on our collective sensibilities. Children are pre-sexual, period. Any exploration of their own genitalia is as benign as the exploration of their hands and feet. Any assigning of sexual mentality to children by so-called grown-ups is a matter of projection and is extremely wrong-minded. Little children are free from the complexities of the adolescent and adult mind, and this imbues their psychological environment with the necessary liberty to build their imagination and to create with confidence and an enduring, innocent self-love. These are the tasks of the magical creature: to fully engage the imagination, to immerse themselves in creativity with confidence in their own growing ability to navigate their world and their mind space, and to establish a firmly grounded relationship with their soul self. These tasks, as well as how to raise a healthy human who retains the most crucial aspects of free imagination and confident life creation, constitutes another book. I aim to write that book in future. Imagine if we knew these things, if we knew what our function and universal purposes were from the beginning. Imagine children retaining their sense of magic, confidence, and innocence throughout each phase of development. Imagine that. For now, I want to bring this present work full circle with my own tribute to my grandson Tonio. Though Tonio and I were only barely acquainted during his all too brief journey on this earth, I could say unwaveringly that he is the absolute inspiration for the writing of this suicide prevention book. In the few conversations I've had with him, it's so very easy to see Tonio's character, vulnerability, and strengths. He is open-minded, ingenious in his thinking, fully curious about life, wise beyond his years, and gifted in creativity and relating to the heart of those who hold much closer ties to him than me. I refuse to speak of him in past terms, not just because it hurts, but because it feels false. I have felt his presence, his reassurance, and his gentle nudgings in the writing of this entire work. I hope I've done some justice to what he would have me say here. I'm a witness to his continuing existence, even if I can't prove that statement. In his continuing existence, the expressions of love, determination, creativity, humor, friendliness, and wisdom have been tangibly felt. I'm sure those who are in his most intimate soul groups can attest to the same. To quote his sweet mama, he is everywhere and nowhere. We love you, Tonio, now and always.